Here is a demo for the first part of the lab. See the lights on? Can you see on that side? I put my finger. Ignore the music in the background. And it works. And for the challenge 1 video, I have the proximity sensor. So the 3233, since we're not using the kind of cheaty thing, we took out the I2 cord and had everything literally stuck in manually. So we use 32 and 33. Then we have the proximity sensor. Here is the addresses. We have to define these since it's not as easily defined. Speaker for the speaker, the sample rate. So that's how much hertz we are going to have as an output. And this is a buffer size for the generated sound. We don't want it overly loud and obnoxious. And this is a sound buffer to make sure it doesn't do too much. This is the sine wave for the type of 8-bit audio we're doing. It's kind of like a wave going up and down and up and down. Here is the setup function. As usual, it has M5 begin, the wire begin. And this is a little new, the set speak enable. That's what it's short for. To begin, if it doesn't find it, it puts out failed to find the VCNL 4040 sensor. And it will try to connect. And when it does connect, this is for the enable proximity sensors. So proximity, light, or raw white light sensors, depending on which we need. But the only one we need was the proximity one. So if the proximity is less than 15, do not play any sound. So proximity, it would have an output of proximity too low. There is no sound. We also are going to limit the proximity to 500 max to prevent exceeding the volume limits. As you can see from the video, I don't know if you heard other people's, but some of them are really loud and it did not feel very well in my ears. So I like having these boundaries because it's not too loud, but it's loud enough to hear. This is for smooth scaling of the volume and the frequency. The closer you are, the higher the pitch it would be, the closer the sine waves are. And this is to generate new sound wave data with the mapped volume. Funny, the sound waves based off of the sine wave, and then it plays the sound. And that is it for the first challenge of this lab. And here is the challenge 2 for the lab. If I click the reset, we're going to see there are going to be, once it loads, there's player 1, there's player 2. And if I navigate, and they can move at the same time. Controls are a little wonky, but and if you see that, that says, let me just do that real fast. A little hard to read, but it says, game over. Survived 20.55 seconds. It's a little hard with this. Camera quality is not amazing, but you could kind of read it out. So that is for the second challenge of the lab. And here's the C++ file for the challenge 2. As you can see, we have the seesaw and the M5 core import. We have player 1 and player 2. The player one speed is just 2. It's pretty basic. The button pins and the start button and the game start time. The void setup is the same. If you look in the terminal up here, the reason it doesn't have the end game on here and the reset is because I unplugged it to show it better into camera. Unfortunately, it stopped a little bit, but you have the gamepad QT chase. That's what I called my game. And we didn't have this error because the seesaw was found. And I found a product, outputted that. Background as being black. Here's a reset game. So when start is pressed, it just resets everyone back to the original position. The loop, the player one previous and player one. That way, if you don't have that, it's just going to continuously go straight. And inputs won't do anything. I found that out the hard way. Also, for some reason, I thought this was supposed to be 1 UL, but it's just 1. I don't know why I added the UL, but now I know. Here's the joystick, the X and the Y axis for it, for player 1. And this is basically so it can move. You got the buttons for the D-pad, or not D-pad, the button pad. Player speed. Last start state is start pressed, and the buttons are for player 2. So when button A is pressed, moves up and moves down left and right with B, X, and Y respectively. And if you press start, it resets the game. And this is for constraints for the players. It's supposed to be. And this is so both players don't go out of bounds, and makes the game really weird if they go out of bounds. Update the screen when a player has moved. This way, again, it updates. Float distance, the distance of how much anything has moved, and the print over the game over survived blank amount of seconds time, and stopping the game. That's what this while does. It just stops it so it doesn't continuously go on forever with a little delay to help it get its bearings. And that is it for the second challenge.